Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lecture 6 on Sport Events Management. Now, this is just going to be a quick overview on sport events. We are just going to look at a few elements of sport events management. I am sure that you are familiar with events management from your undergraduate studies, so we won't go too much in depth as it may feel like a repetition of information that you already have. So let's start with looking quickly at the types of events. I've highlighted four types of events there. We have our mega events, which, as we all know, are events that occur once in every 4 years and sometimes every 2 years. We also have major events that are slightly smaller than our mega events. However, they are of a global scale. Then we have our local events, which are events that are organized, managed, and implemented locally. And then there is a new concept or a new idea known as homegrown events. Now, this is an event, a type of event that has recently been identified in literature and could be worth discussing. I would like to know if you perhaps have an idea of what homegrown events could be. Okay, there are some articles that I can refer you to. If you look for an article by Hammondsby and Tichawa 2020, they will discuss homegrown events. I think in 2021 as well, they have an article of homegrown events. I'll share another article in our Google Drive from the ICE conference that Dr. Hammondsby wrote with myself on homegrown events. So that's an interesting concept that is coming out of late in literature discussions on sport events. You may find a different type of categorization for sport events. For example, in some instances, you might find that some people talk about jewel events. There's a different type of categorization, and perhaps we will identify it a little bit later. We might not. But like I said, we are simply just brushing the surface here. Now, I want us to look at a process known as sport events bidding. Now, this has to do with hosting of events, in particular mega events, which encompass multiple countries. So, for example, the Olympic Games as well as the World Cups, Cricket World Cup, Soccer World Cup, Netball World Cup, you name it, you have a process known as bidding. This is when the host or potential hosts will put together a portfolio, a proposal, and give it to the event owner to say that we want to host your event and this is what we have to offer, or this is what we have that can help us with the hosting of the event. We can do it better than the other bidding hosts or countries. So what needs to happen is there is quite a long process before you get to your bidding process. The event owner needs to identify and disseminate information on their preferences, what they require to build a relationship with the host nation, as well as some of their requirements for a successful event. For example, FIFA would indicate the type of grass that they need in their stadiums, the seating capacity, level of maintenance, and so on. And then once that has been disseminated, they then look at the basic criterias um, that have been submitted by the destination um, bidding host bids. I don't know how to put that. It's kind of a tongue twister. And then decide on the winning bid, and the winning bid will then become the host country. On the other hand, the destination um, will put together their resources, their goals, identify how their objectives as a country links with the objectives of the event, and then start from there to build a bid proposal. Okay, so that's where we are. Now let's look at the bid process. So once you have done the first part of identifying the event and whether it works for you and you want to bid for it, you can afford the cost of bidding. There are some potential impacts, positive impacts from the event that you want for your destination. You then start the bidding process. So in the bidding process, you first need to recruit your organizing committee. And this is where sport practitioners are quite important because we have the know-how, we have studied this, and we know that what information is required. So then you recruit the organizing committee. You need people to put together the proposal. You need individuals to sponsor. You need city and government officials involved because the land might belong to um, the government or might be owned by the city or it might be a host city. So you need them for community engagement and so on. You then decide, you need to determine the possible dates for the event and then look at the venues. Are there enough venues that can be used for this event? Review those available resources. Are there people that can cater for the event? Are there specialists that can be involved in this event? Is it safe enough? Do we have a budget? And then you put all that information into your proposal. Right. So, what goes into the proposal? You need to identify the event team. What are their specialties? What is their expertise? What are they bringing to this event? Excuse me. What is it that the event team can contribute to this event to make it better than previous events and events that can come in the future? Or what do they have to offer that the other bidding institutions do not have to offer? Then you look at your venues and facilities. You need to upsell them. You need to tell them what venues you have, what facilities you have available to host this event. Are they up to the standard of the event owners' requirements? Do they cater for a certain capacity of fans? How much income are they going to bring in? And such information is quite important. The safety of the venues, the equipment, and so on. And then you need to kind of identify a program. Okay, so you need to say, well, we can host this event from such a time to such a time, or such a date to such a date. For example, the World Cup, the current upcoming World Cup had to be moved to the end of the year because of the weather conditions in the host destination. Okay, so you need to identify a program that will have the maximum impact or the best impact on the event, and then you need to show or prove to the event owners that you have a budget that can cater for the entire event. What are the benefits that the event is going to bring for the host destination? In particular for the Olympic bid, I know you need to be able to show that there's going to be lasting positive impacts for the host destination. Japan, for example, went with a green environmental kind of approach to their benefits for the host destination. They brought awareness to earthquake devastated areas, hurricane devastated areas. They highlighted those areas and all the income was coming to those areas so that they can be developed, and where there needs to be repairs, they are repaired. They used recycled material so that they can show that there is no lasting negative environmental impacts for the host destination. They used untouched natural resources for outdoor um, events like biking, I think. Yes, 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 yes. Um, so those are the kind of things that you need to highlight. What are the benefits that are going to come out for the host destination? Is it going to change the image? Is it going to bring in um, money for the destination? Is what's going to happen to the infrastructure? How much jobs are going to be created? Is it going to be sustainable? What are the development programs that are going to remain behind? For the FIFA World Cup, for example, there was a very big development program that was set out in the outskirts. So in small towns like Gansbaai, for example, just outside Cape Town, there is a very big soccer development program that's still running to this day. In fact, we're involved in looking at some of the CSR initiatives and outcomes that have come from that association that was left behind as a legacy from the 2010 World Cup. So such things are things that you need to present to the event owners as a bidding nation. And what are the contributions to the event? Local community, I believe I've already mentioned that, and sustainability and legacies as well. Right, so once you have put in a bid and it has been successful, then you need to plan your event. What comes first? You need to plan for it. You need to do your market research. Who's going to be your customer base? How are you going to approach them? How do you reach these individuals? How do you promote this event? Who's going to be your partners? How are you going to engage in safety at the event? So this is the entire planning process. You need to come up with a document that details all this information. Also, how are you going to monitor the event's success post? So what happens after the event? How are you going to write up a report? Who are you going to report to? Or what are going to be your success measures? So you need to quantify some of those ideas and objectives. And then event sponsorship is quite an important element or part of event management. And there are different types of sponsorship. I've broken them up into 4 categories. Like I said, you will find different categorizations. For example, you'll find um, top tier sponsorship, middle tier sponsorship, bottom level sponsorship. Those become more specific types of sponsorship categories within each of these categories that we're going to look at here. So the first one is financial sponsorship. These are the sponsors that will give money as their investment. And then you find in-kind sponsorship. For example, the venue partner can be a sponsor for the event, food sponsors, digital sponsors, the sponsors that will give the award cheese, sponsors that will manage the scoreboard, sponsors that will make sure that the advertisements that are digitally projected at the sides of the stadiums are working fine, and so on. You have media event sponsorships. Now, these are quite important, and there are 2 types. You have the sponsors that will sponsor the media in order for the media to pay for the broadcasting rights. So these are part of the media event sponsors. And what happens with these kinds of sponsorships is that they then get a slot. So while the event is playing on TV, sometimes you will see that the screen might shrink and they pops up an advert on the side. Those are media event sponsors being advertised. They're getting a return for that investment. And sometimes you might find that the media companies want to be part and parcel of the event itself. So you find that you have an exclusive media partnership. So only one type of one TV channel can broadcast this event. That's a media event sponsorship and provides exclusivity in that aspect, as well as your promotional partners. So maybe you only advertise through Facebook, or you only advertise through ZBC TV, or you only advertise through SABC 5. I don't know um, if there is an SABC 5. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about event marketing, which I'm sure you're quite familiar with. Again, it's the application of those basic sport marketing techniques that you know and are familiar with in that sport marketing process. You need to market your event so that they attract potential attendees. Without marketing the event, nobody's going to know about it. You're not going to be able to sell your tickets. You're not going to be able to make money from it. You run at a loss because you've put in a lot of money to put that event together. So you need to publicize it and make it as um, attractive as possible to the public. Right, let's look at some unique aspects of sport events that you need to be aware of as you market them. So there are some characteristics that sport events share with services. For example, it's a perishable product. It's simultaneously produced and consumed at the same time, pretty much like a service. So when you think of an event, perhaps it would be wise to think of it as a service. You're providing a service to your consumer. The cost of attending an event, however, tends to be greater than the price that you pay for the ticket. Why? Because you need to travel to the event venue. Perhaps you might need to find a place to stay closer to the event venue, and you also need to travel back home. You might need food at the event. You might need a specific type of costume and so on. So the cost of attending an event sometimes can be greater than the price that you pay for the actual event. So you need to be aware of this and kind of work around it in your marketing strategy. And remember that sport is social. So most consumers will prefer to attend the event with their friends or family. So it might be wise to have some package deals in your marketing strategy as well. All right. So there is a difference between marketing the event and event leveraging, as well as leveraging a sponsorship. So I'm sure you are aware of sponsorship leveraging from your marketing course. I'm just going to briefly mention that sponsorship leveraging, sponsorship leveraging would be when you market or publicize a sponsorship agreement, a sponsorship deal, sponsorship relationship in order to maximize the return of investment for the sponsor as well as gain some exposure and benefits for the sponsee. So that would be a sponsorship leveraging initiative. For example, if Coca-Cola is sponsor for 2010 2022 FIFA World Cup, then they will include or put on their packaging perhaps the FIFA logo. Okay, so it shows a relationship between the two brands and then markets both Coca-Cola and the FIFA World Cup. The idea is for one to think of the other and link it to the other product. That is basically sponsorship leveraging. Now, event leveraging rather broadly refers to activities that are done to maximize long-term benefits from the events for the destination. Okay, so you want to make sure that when somebody thinks of 2022 FIFA World Cup, they think, oh, Qatar. If somebody says 2010 FIFA World Cup, you think, oh, South Africa. If somebody says 2018 FIFA World Cup, you think Russia. If somebody says 2018 Olympics, you think, where were they? Right, so that wasn't very well marketed in that respect. So if you can identify the destination from the event, or the event from the destination, then you have done your leveraging activity well. Now, here are some leveraging activities that you can engage into to maximize that relationship. For example, theme-based advertising, we've already mentioned that there. There's Layaka there, the Qatar mascot. See, it's a relationship between that Arabic background from Qatar 2022 as well as the FIFA World Cup. You're getting corporate destinations, logos and packaging. I've already mentioned Coca-Cola, there's relationship with FIFA World Cup as an example. You can have some point of sale display. So you can have some World Cup related or Olympic related, or if it's a cricket T20 tournament, some related point of sale displays at your organization or available for purchase. Limited editions, even. I think there was a 2010 Fufuzela thing that you could find at FNB with the FNB brand. That was really cool. Um, you can engage in cross promotions between the event and the sponsor, and also on the website, you can link to each other, which will help the people visiting your website to identify that symbiotic relationship between the two. Right now, what does event leveraging have to do with the destination? Well, it has a lot to do with the branding. You see, the essence of leveraging is to improve what I have already mentioned, that relationship between the destination as well as the brand that is sponsoring. Okay, so this is known as destination branding. And leveraging the event can foster a desired long-term outcome for the event and the destination as well. Right. So what is nation or destination branding? Um, the sport event media coverage increases the awareness of the destination's brand. So a destination's brand is essentially who the city is or who the country is. How do you identify or how are you identified outside of who you are? You know what a brand is. I'm not going to dwell on that and waste too much time on it. So, leveraging the event enhances the concept of co branding between the event and the host destination. That's why we said at the beginning it's important for the event to be a good match for the destination host. Why? Because the image of the event will influence the image of the host destination. So if they view the event as an event that is community focused, an event that's warm, that's uplifting, that promotes peace, then they will also identify the destination as such. Okay, now let's have a quick discussion. I've identified three very strong articles there. Okay, in 2022, Gallup identified Australia as the first nation to employ leveraging strategies to successfully um, brand themselves using the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. And in 2012, Grix identified that Germany employed leveraging strategies in their hosting of the 2006 FIFA World Cup to improve their nation brand among international tourists. You know, Germany had a not so positive brand image prior to the 2006 FIFA World Cup because people still consider them to be unfriendly, to be unwelcoming, a little bit scary sometimes. But after 2006 FIFA World Cup, we now know that Germans are friendly, they are welcoming, they're nice people, they're fun to hang around, and so on. In 2013, not Prof. Not, um, and Swart, I think. I'm not sure who else is on that paper. Not Swart and somebody else. They identified that South Africa's leveraging efforts of 2010 FIFA World Cup changed the brand perception of South Africa, which was unsafe to visit. So the brand perceptions of South Africa prior to the 2010 World Cup were that South Africa is a crime riddled country, it's not safe to visit. If you go to South Africa, you're going to get mugged. If you go to South Africa, you're going to get killed in the streets. But the FIFA World Cup was then used to show that no, it's actually quite safe to visit South Africa, to go to some of the tourist destinations, to just be with the people of South Africa as well. So, what were then some of the benefits of these brand image changing attempts? Well, you'll find that the tourism numbers for South Africa increased post 2010, and they're still increasing today. They're able to host more events, golf tours, um, what's that event? Ironman event. Um, the marathons are more successful. They have more people engaging in the cycle tours and so on. So it's improved that image, and people don't just come for the event, but they also come for other things. They come to visit the country. They come to see the sites because they've been exposed after the 2010 World Cup, and they now feel safer coming to the country. Similarly, with Germany, people felt, oh, okay, so I can visit Germany without any stigma. I don't fear for being, lost and being treated unfairly, and there's people being unfriendly to me. And Australia also changed that their brand image as well. Right, so maybe we can talk about countries like Brazil also using the Olympics and the World Cup to try and change their brand image. Russia 2018 as well. Those are some of the things that we need to identify and maybe consider for our own country in upcoming hosting of events, because I think we're hosting for 2026, co-hosting the 2026 T20 Cricket World Cup with South Africa and Kenya. What are some of the branding concerns or the branding issues that might be addressed through that event? And what are some of the strategies that we can use as a country to kind of address that? What are some event leveraging things um, that we can do to maximize on that event? That's a global event. It's going to attract a lot of international attention. What can we do? How can we maximize on that potential? something that we can talk about. Now, let's quickly look at event implementation. This is the execution of the event, where the main objective is to do what you have already planned to do. Okay, make sure that the time and the day when you have scheduled certain things happens um, according to that plan, barring some, of course, crisis that we have already spoken about in previous lectures. Right, so after the event, what happens? You need to assess the success of that event. There's some qualitative assessments that you can embark into, that you can look at to see if you have successfully achieved what you wanted to do. Right, so those could be in the form of market response. Is there a change in the sales? Are you selling more tickets for tourists coming into the country? Are you selling more hotel rooms to people coming into to visit the country after the event? Is there an impact on the trade participation? Are there more people who want to invest in the country? Are there more consumers that are interested in perhaps using your facilities and so on? And then media equivalences there, I should have put in quantitative assessments on top of that. That is where you look at your comparative value and share value that's actually more for the sponsor rather than for the event, but it's still part of your event evaluation. So you look at how much input you have put, okay, your investment, your initial investment, how much it costs you to leverage that investment, how much exposure you got from that investment. And then you look at also the same things, your change in sales, your attractiveness, has there been a change in your market value? And then you use comparative value to decide if it was a successful investment or not. Right. Event impacts and legacies. I think we've spoken quite a bit about these. Events in general have a lot of social impacts, political impacts, environmental impacts, economic impacts, as well as impacts on tourism. Now, there are a few articles that I will refer you to. There are a lot of important elements related to these impacts. The paper that I promised to put up for you will also have one by Brendan Knott, myself, and Dr. Hammondsby on social impacts. You might also find some environmental impacts in that paper as well. Now let's talk about events and sustainability. Okay, I've given you a short little excerpt from an article that says that the United Nations has identified events, uh, actually sports, as a tool for achieving the SDGs. I'm sure you know what the SDGs are. Okay, so it has been argued that sport has the power to make society more peaceful, cohesive, and equal, um, and that it can make some that have some, I mean, some sport events can have some significant implications on the SDGs. In fact, bids of late are required to show how they contribute to the SDG um, requirements for that country. So if the country is driving SDGs 1 to 4, or if their priority is SDG 5, 7, and 9, how is the event going to impact or add on or provide some significant implications to those SDG drives that are paramount for that country? Okay, so what I want you to discuss is, do you agree that events have important legacy related social impacts that can impact on the SDGs? What could be the contribution of sport events for tourism, for the economy, and so on? Okay, that's a discussion that I would like us to embark into perhaps in the group. Now, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. I will talk to you again in the next recording. Please be sure to chat in the group, ask questions. It's important for us to share such things. Thank you so much for your time. See you again next time. Bye bye.